Hey Scoundrels, welcome back to the Scoundrels Den. Hope you're all doing well. If you'd like to be a Scoundrel, there is a subscription button down below. And also, if you enjoy the content that I do on my channel, a comment and a like goes a long way to help the video. And also, thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. There's a reference link in the description below. Okay, so what are we talking about today? We are talking about the roles in solo queue and how I rank them for climbing elo. If you're going into solo queue as a singular player, you're not duo queue, you're not trio queue, then this might help you decide on which role you want to main in terms of climbing the ladder the best. Because if you haven't come from another mobile MOBA or you haven't come from League of Legends, then you might not know which role is the best for climbing, or you might not have a role that suits you specifically. So we are going to talk about that today and hopefully give you some insight into why each of the roles are better or worse for climbing in solo queue. And I'll talk about it and why they might change as well in the future. This is not something that is going to be 100% for the whole of Wild Rift. A lot of it depends on the current state of the meta. But in general, this is true for a lot of MOBAs overall. You'll find that some roles are just better and more influential than others in terms of having an individual impact. And that is what this particular video is about. It's about which roles have the most individual impact in the game. So without further ado, let's jump into my first role and discuss that. I'm going to start at number 5, the least impactful role in the game. And you might be looking at me playing Brawl and say, but Excoundrel, support is actually pretty impactful. I'm not actually talking about support in this clip. I'm actually talking about AD carry. Yes, the Marksman role. I feel like it is the least impactful role in solo queue when you are playing entirely by yourself. And that comes from several reasons. Firstly, to get an advantage in lane, you require the aid of another person, your support. So therefore, if you're in duo queue, AD carry makes a lot more sense, because if you're in duo queue, you're going to be able to have that synergy with your support player. But if you're playing entirely by yourself, you're playing with a random support, so you lose that synergy. And that makes it a little bit more difficult to have that single-handed impact in lane. It's quite difficult for an AD carry to win the lane entirely by themselves, especially the higher elo that you get. Also, as the game progresses, you'll find that AD carries are quite exposed as carries. It can be, in the late game, the AD carries often do the most damage. They're often the ones that are carrying the team fights, but they require the coordination and help of their teammates to be able to do so. There are lots of ways to kill AD carries. There are Zeds, Lee Sins, Fedariuses, Olafs, Gragas's. There are loads of champions right now that absolutely eat Marksman for breakfast, and there aren't as many protective mechanisms for Marksmans out there as you would like. And to protect a Marksman, they cannot do it individually. They often require the aid of their team or their support. Although the Marksman is one of the most powerful roles in terms of damage dealing, I feel like it is one of the least impactful roles in terms of carrying yourself through the upper echelons of the ranked ladder system. And that is just my personal opinion. I know some people may disagree with me, and I know that in lower elos that is definitely not the case. But as I've said, in higher elos, it is absolutely one of the hardest roles to carry with in your own right in solo queue. However, it is a very fun role, and you're always going to be a late game carry as you go towards the ends of the game. Okay, now let's move on to our fourth spot, which is the Baron lane, which is sad because I'm actually a Baron lane main and I absolutely love the role, but I do understand its limitations. The Baron lane is very good in terms of it has a lot of access to some carry champions like Fiora, Camille. You have the likes of these big beefy bruisers like Olaf and Garen, Mundo. You got the sort of the diversity of tanks. Wukong can be played there. It's a very diverse role that can offer a lot to a team. But the problem is the positioning of the Baron lane. You are so far away and so far removed from some of the most early impact objectives on the map. For instance, the Dragon is one of the most impactful. The Drakes in the game, they are one of the most impactful objectives that you can go for. And in the early game, Rift Herald doesn't mean as much as getting those early Dragons secured. And because you're on the opposite side of the map, it's more difficult for you to roam. And if you do roam, you often end up losing lots of minions in your lane. You potentially even lose your tower. So there's always sacrifices to be made if you're playing in that position. But otherwise, you obviously can have an impact later on into the game depending on what you're playing. But because you're often left up on an island in the Baron lane, you're often far removed from the majority of the action, you'll end up finding that actually it is a bit more difficult to carry on that role than it is on other roles in the game. And that's purely just from positioning of the lane compared to everything else. Clearly, when the game goes on, depending on how your lane has gone, you can impact in these team fights. But actually just having that immediate snowball impact from the very very early stages of the game, it is more difficult to do that from the Baron lane than it is from the other lanes in the game. And that is why I would say that the Baron lane is the 4th most impactful. But I would say that it is significantly more impactful than AD carry, because you can have a solo impact, you can absolutely stomp your lane. And the other reason that the Baron lane is maybe not as impactful as some of the other lanes is that split pushing as a pure solo win condition is not quite so easily achieved in Wild Rift as it is compared to League of Legends. The map is much smaller, it is easier to traverse the map, and to be able to have a pure split push win condition is a little bit more difficult than on the PC variant of the game. Although it can be done, it again, as I said, is a little bit more difficult to achieve. Okay, coming in at number 3, and this might be a more controversial pick, as I know not everybody will agree with it, but I have the opinion that the support role is actually a relatively impactful solo queue role. The reason being is that the support role is often the role that is either the engager or the protector for the marksman. Like here on Alistair, you can see you can make very impactful engagers for your team will follow up on them, and that can allow you to make some very, very dominant teamfight victories happen in your favor. Also, the fact that the Wild Rift meta is very roam heavy. Like, you'll often see people roaming across the map frequently. And as a support role, you're not as tied to the minions in your lane as your AD carry is. If you were to leave the bot lane, you may lose experience, but you're not going to lose the amount of gold that you would for not getting the last hits compared to the marksman. That's why the marksman is more tied to sitting in the bot lane than you would be as the support. So you can make more roams to mid lane, you can roam towards the jungle, you can help your jungler out, you can help your mid laner out. You have more freedom in terms of what you do as the support compared to other roles in the Dragon lane. And so I would say that the support is actually in a pretty good spot overall, and I think if you're looking to play solo queue, especially if you're willing to play the likes of Alistair, these kind of more sort of these supports that have a little bit more agency than others, then I would definitely say that the support role is a role that you can carry from, and I think it's one of the more impactful roles in the game, if I'm completely honest with you. Obviously not as impactful as the remaining 2 roles that I'm going to talk about, but it is definitely more impactful than people give it credit for, even in a solo queue scenario. And I've actually found that when I've played support, I've been more comfortable playing support in the bot lane when I'm not in a duo than I am playing the marksman. The support is often the role that has the more of the agency in the bot lane in terms of controlling the pace of the lane, either engaging or keeping the AD carry. Okay, now the second most impactful role in the game, and this is primarily due to a couple of things that make the mid lane set up for carrying in a game. Mainly it comes down to geographical location of the mid lane. The mid lane is situated, as the name suggests, right in the middle of the map, and that perfectly sets it up to be able to roam and impact other lanes elsewhere. The mid lane is a short lane as well, which means that you can push the minion wave to turret with relative ease, and you can then allow yourself to move to the other lanes. Unlike the Baron lane, because if I were to play Baron lane and roam towards the bot lane and try and have an impact, I risk giving up my turret because I have a long way to go to get back towards my lane. If I'm in the mid lane and I roam and it doesn't go the way I want it to, I can essentially walk back to mid lane and I'm very unlikely to lose a huge amount on any individual roam that I make. Wild Rift is a very roam-heavy game. To truly have success in solo queue, you need to be willing to leave your lane and impact the other lanes as much as you physically can. And the mid lane has lots of champions that are quite well suited to do that as well. Things like Yasuo, Zed, Ahri, even Orianna, who can have big impact in teamfights. The mid lane has got a really nice setup in the meta to be able to impact the lane or impact the game more so than any other lane out there. And I think that is what really just sets the mid lane up, and why I think a lot of people are big mid lane fans, because you can just have this solo impact from the game through these roams, or through your teamfight impact. And I think most people would agree that the mid lane is a very, very high impact role overall. But it is not the most impactful role in the game, because that's the one that we're going to talk about right now. I took a little break there because I want you to see the end of the Baron fight. That was a pretty fun game on the Annie. I don't usually play Annie, but I went for it anyway. Yes, now we're going to talk about the most impactful role in the game. And I think very few people would disagree with me on this assessment, but the most impactful role in the game for me is the jungle. And the reason that the jungle is the most impactful role in the game is because you are not tied to any one lane. You are absolutely free to roam the map. You can have impact in any lane. In fact, it's your job to have impact in the lanes. Your ganks can both set up your laners for success, but more importantly, they're usually the driving factor behind setting them up for objective takes and setting your team up for victory that way. Objectives are the key to winning in Wild Rift, especially as you climb the ladder, and you'll find that the higher that you go, the more likely it is for the jungler to be the driving force behind a win, because the jungler is the one that ganks, then chooses to go towards Dragon or go to Rift Herald. They have the smite to secure them, as well as usually having big teamfight impact as well. And also the jungler just has, the jungle role right now has a lot of really strong champions in it. Things like Lee Sin, things like a Mumu, these are all really good champions. And I think most people would agree that they are really high impact overall. So yes, I would say that the jungle is the most impactful role if you want to climb in solo queue. Not only for your individual impact in lanes, but also how you control objectives and kind of like how you set your team up for victory through that. So yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why jungle is good, but it tops the list of my Wild Rift roles for being high impact, and especially in a solo queue environment, the jungler is usually the one that is going to drive success. Okay, hope you enjoyed this little list. I hope it helps you think about a role in terms of maining or choosing a role overall for your Wild Rift experience, and I will see you on the next video. I'll be doing another tier list. I'm probably going to wait for Teemo to be released to do a tier list, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, see you soon, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.